What is up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome to a brand new episode of the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Network. I'm your host, as always, Mundungus Creevy, just going through puberty. I am your host, Mundungus Creevy, alongside Cameron Gage Madrid and Glenn Hauser. And if you haven't already, make sure you go over to the MHRT Network YouTube page, hit the like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit that join button. There's 3 different levels. It'll tell you what they are and the perks you get. Also, head over to Broncos Syndicate, hosted by Gage Madrid. Make sure you do the same thing. Hit like, subscribe, thumbs up, and hit that join button. 3 tiers, I believe, and it'll tell you what the options are there and the perks are. So, before we get into anything, how you guys doing?
Doing good. Feeling like a number 1 seed.
Dude, I'm looking at your beard going, what's it going to be like once he goes through puberty? Like,
right? I've only gone through puberty right here.
We need a Benjamin Button situation here. I think.
And then soon the hair will start growing in places you didn't know it was possible for it to grow.
Already there. We won't get into that story.
That's why the Brazilian is so important. Yeah.
All right, so it has been a minute. Well, it feels like it, since we've done a show, and there is a lot that has happened since. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through coaching changes, hirings, firings, interviews. Then we'll get into the playoffs because both kind of go with each other. And then we'll go into the Broncos going against the Bills here in Denver. So I want to pull up the list of all the coaches that have either been let go or stepped down. And we got some big news today.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin has stepped down from the Pittsburgh Steelers, which you have to think that's going to be the leading job opening right now, right? Or are we still going Ravens, or are we still going Giants?
It's probably undoubtedly that division between. So it's funny, right? Baltimore and Pittsburgh move on from their coaches, and they arguably are the 2 best candidates that are out there on the market, allegedly. But Pittsburgh and Baltimore are also the 2 best jobs on the market because of everything that they built up and all the longevity that they've had with that organization. So it's very funny that Tomlin and Harbaugh step down or get fired, and then all of a sudden those 2 teams end up being like the 2 most attractive jobs, or 2 of the most attractive, if you will, in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So right here, Mike Tomlin from the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got offensive coordinator for the Eagles, Kevin Patullo, has mutually decided to part ways, I guess.
Well, I mean, when he cooks burgers,
Yeah.
half of it's cooking and half of it's
Throws
raw.
people under the bus all the time.
That kid was incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't seen that video of the young boy that was interviewed after they lost, and he was lamenting the fact that was his Christmas present and they lost, and then gave pretty good analysis over A.J. Brown and the offensive coordinator.
Right, 20 years.
Oh, good.
All right, we got the Atlanta Falcons firing Raheem Morris and general manager Terry Fontenot. Terry Fontenot, that name sounds familiar. That was one of the names we were talking about potentially for the GM spot in Denver, and they went with George Payton instead, so appreciate that.
He's there.
Cleveland Browns fire Kevin Stefanski. I actually thought that one – I didn't see that one coming.
I did.
I thought that they'd let him stay, even though he mismanaged some stuff.
I actually did. Some of that I think may have been with how things kind of got handled with the whole Shedeur Sanders situation. I also think some of it kind of got based on maybe some play calling, mishandling on a lot of some different things. And, well, then there's the third option. It's Cleveland. And they just can't seem to actually, nail a head coach, because it's all under the fingertips of Jimmy Haslam. I mean, this is the same franchise that actually interviewed the minority owner of Condoleezza Rice, for their head coaching position. I mean, Condoleezza Rice is incredible, and we're definitely thankful, that she's part of our ownership group. But wild, to at least consider that, I guess.
Well, he immediately came out and was like, I was against Deshaun Watson coming to Cleveland.
Of course.
Nothing to do with it. So don't hold it against me.
Well, I mean, I think Jimmy Haslam is not known for his accountability.
No, he's not.
So it's no surprise to me that Stefanski took the fall. I mean, this is a guy that actually won Coach of the Year twice in, I believe, 6 years. That's a pretty incrable feat.
And I'd argue
better
too.
Off. He's going to get another job.
I agree, because I was going to say I'd argue after maybe some of the top 2 or 3 candidates, he might be right near the top of that as far as some of the best coaching candidates that's on the market.
I mean, ultimately, somebody had to fall on the sword there in Cleveland, and we all know that it's not going to be Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Barry. He's apparently really tight with ownership there, so he's pretty secure as far as his job goes. So ultimately, it's Stefanski, and it's kind of funny. I made a joke in the syndicate group chat. The Browns should hire Kevin Stefanski. He's a 2-time Coach of the Year and offensive genius. Exactly what they need to change the culture there. So, I mean, literally, dude, it's like the Cleveland Browns are a comedy of errors. And in the syndicate group chat, we also ranked all of the head coaching jobs, and I put Cleveland as number 9, easily the least desirable, because nobody wants to work with Jimmy Haslam.
Yeah. All right, then I think we all saw this one coming. The Raiders fire Pete Carroll.
Yes.
And that's after he'd already fired Chip Kelly and Tom McMahon, who great special teams coordinator.
Yes, right.
In the league.
The Cardinals fired Jonathan Gannon. Cowboys fired defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. Duh. Nobody cares about these two. John Harbaugh got fired from the Baltimore Ravens.
Mike over the phone, by the way,
for the Detroit Lions. Before we touch on Harbaugh, because he was an offensive assistant here in Denver, and it would not surprise me at all if he made his way back under Sean Payton
as like quarterback coach or something.
Possibly, he could be the replacement for Davis Webb.
Could be.
Yeah. Oof. Mike McDaniel fired from the Dolphins.
He's an interesting one that I would be worth following.
Greg Roman
needed to happen.
That's what he gets.
This is gonna sound kind of crazy, but that's the first time Jim Harbaugh has ever fired Greg Roman, dating back to college, and even now this is the first time he let go of Greg Roman. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. And I do have a name in mind, and he's got Bronco ties, and it's the name of David Shaw.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a big name for offensive coordinator somewhere. I don't think he gets a head coach anywhere.
He shouldn't.
But I do think that's going to be a big name for offensive teams looking for offensive coordinators. I still think he'd be a good fit with the Lions. But
he'd be incredible.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean,
listen, he couldn't make it work, and he had Sam Hartman in the quarterback room.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, Mike, you're all gassing up Dan Quinn, and here he is in year 2 firing both of his fucking coordinators.
Scapegoat.
Yeah, well, because he's not starting Sam Hartman.
Trust me, we will touch on this in the podcast today. Like, that's going to have its own segment.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now we've got head coach and GM interviews and coordinator interviews. And I'm not going to go through that whole thing because there's a bunch of stuff that we just don't care who gets what and where and when. So that wasn't what I wanted to click. There we go. I broke down the Broncos coaches and what interviews that they have. All of them have already been completed except for one. I think that's Davis Webb, right? I think there's one he hasn't done yet.
I think. Yeah, I mean, it should be.
Has he not done the Raiders? He did the Ravens because they did put out.
I think it's the Raiders that he hasn't. It was requested but not allowed yet. So Vance Joseph has 5 or had 5 head coaching interviews: Cardinals, Ravens, Raiders, Giants, and Titans. I can almost guarantee he's going to get a call for Pittsburgh.
Probably.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Davis Webb actually had 2 head coaching interviews for the Ravens and was requested with the Raiders. Darren Rizzi got a head coach interview with the Giants.
Sky Rizzy, man.
And then Jim Leonard got an interview for defensive coordinator with the Cowboys.
His only lone interview, just throwing that out there, his only publicly known interview.
Yeah, and do I think that he goes to the Cowboys as defensive coordinator? No. But there are potentially Darren Rizzi's not going to the Giants as head coach. But there are potentially 3 coaches currently on the Broncos roster that might not be there next year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
welcome to Detroit. Yeah.
Say again?
I said, welcome to Detroit.
Right. I mean, Sean Payton said that we should be more concerned if our coaches weren't getting poached like this. I mean, Denver's got an excellent hiring pipeline. I'm not overly concerned about it. However, losing guys like Vance Joseph and Davis Webb, it's not if it's going to happen. It's always been when it's going to happen. And it seems we have arrived at when. Vance Joseph, as much as fans want maybe Greg Penner to back up the Brinks truck and offer him to be the highest paid coordinator in the NFL to stay, what the Broncos cannot provide is a head coaching job. And that's what VJ wants. And then as far as Davis Webb is concerned, there's only so far that he can elevate himself here in Denver. He's not going to call plays here with Sean Payton, so he's looking for that opportunity. I saw a tweet from Benjamin Albright that said that head coaching interview with the Raiders, it's maybe more of an offensive coordinator interview if Vance Joseph were to go there. But it's always felt like we were going to lose those 2 guys. Jim Leonard. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I actually have Vance Joseph as going to be the head coach of the Raiders. That's where I have him going.
I mean, it's really definitely possible, but I think with Tom Brady calling the shots, I keep a heavy eye on maybe Brian Flores or maybe even Brian Dable. They want to bring that Patriot way back over there to Vegas, and it didn't work the first time. We'll see if it works the second time.
Mm-hmm.
But Jim Leonard, if he's got an opportunity to go to Dallas and the defensive coordinator job for Denver is not available, like let's say they do convince Vance Joseph to stay, then he's going to go there. But if Vance Joseph leaves, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Jim Leonard's going to be the defensive coordinator here.
I think you need to go to see a doctor, Fanny.
The worst part is it's Miracle Whip.
Well, I would say, is it Miracle Whip or is it Hellman's? Which one are we talking about here?
Dukes.
Although if it's Grey Poupon, that might be a little messed up too.
Dukes is the best. That's why I don't want to attach it to Jokic.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing for me with the head coaching staff or just coordinator interviews is the Leonard one is just bittersweet because I'm actually a little bit more on a little bit less optimistic that Leonard's back than probably anybody. And the Cowboys are his only interview. And if you actually get a chance to read anything that's on the Cowboys timeline from beat writers and people that actually cover the team, there's only one leader in the clubhouse right now for the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator job. And it's Jim Leonard. And I think there's a very real chance that Denver loses both Vance Joseph and Jim Leonard in this cycle. And I think we should be prepared for that. But I also think that there's the very real possibility of everything we talked about, which is if Vance if Vance leaves, obviously he would be the defensive coordinator in waiting. But again, this was still his only interview. Only interview. And if there's one thing I would probably say about Leonard and his history and everything we know about him, I would say he probably's earned the right to be a little bit selective of where he wants to go. From a guy who was spurned by Wisconsin and should have been the head coach down at Wisconsin, had a lot of jobs, lined up for him in college and in the NFL, and ultimately choose Denver. I have to think he's being pretty selective here when it comes to that position. So I'm not ruling out the fact that he might actually leave. Now, I will say to the Broncos' credit, it is bittersweet to lose him, but there are a lot of candidates if, in fact, things just go south and they lose both of them. So they can bring in some defensive coordinator minds, and obviously Sean has definitely earned the right to bring someone in to be another passing game coordinator and that sort of thing. So he's definitely earned that respect in that regard. It's just going to be a little bit bittersweet for that to happen.
Where did you go to college?
Point out that they can block that because it would be a lateral move. They do have the power to block that, and I think that if it's a bidding war between Greg Penner and Jerry Jones, Greg Penner can dish out more money. So I don't know.
At least not right now. It's not, at least not right now. Not right now. It's not a lateral move.
No, but that does bring up that does bring up two questions that I have. One is Jim Leonard actually the defensive coordinator in waiting? And if both leave, Joseph and Leonard, then what? Is there somebody that you have in mind? Is there somebody already on staff that would take over? What, like, are we giving Rex Ryan a call? Like, what are we doing?
I think there are a couple names worth filing away. One is just pure storyline because I want to see how chaotic it would be with all the stories, and the media pundits and everything. And that would be Brian Flores. I think ends up with the head coaching job, but I think Brian Flores would be hysterical. One, I think he's a great defensive mind. But two, just given everything with his suit and everything, with Denver, and obviously that was during the Elway years, but I think that would be very, very funny if he ended up being the defensive coordinator here. And then the other one is Robert Saleh, be the defensive coordinator here in Denver, given everything that happened down there and, with the Jets of him, shooting his mouth off, Sean Payton shooting his mouth off, during that whole Aaron Rodgers thing. So I think just for pure storylines and chaoticness, if you will, those two would be pretty fun. But I think if you're maybe looking logically, maybe Raheem Morris, maybe.
I'd be really good with Raheem Morris, honestly. He's not a head coach. We know that. He failed in Tampa Bay. He failed in Atlanta. But he is a good defensive mind. He won a Super Bowl as the Rams defensive coordinator. I could see that. I really could. And he's kind of got some familiarity with that defensive system. He's also got his roots with the Tampa 2 defense with Monty Kiffin there in Tampa Bay. So I think he could bring a lot to the table and could maybe keep some of what they're doing well, but also sprinkle in some other tendencies that I feel like at times Vance Joseph doesn't want to pivot to. So, yeah, I'd be all good with Raheem Morris, and he's very similar to Vance Joseph in the fact that he's a player's coach. Everybody who's worked with him loves him. He's somebody who relates well and motivates guys. So I would definitely be okay with Raheem Morris.
Okay. All right, so we had a big weekend. Well, we didn't. We were sitting at home watching TV because we didn't have a game. But I will say this wild card round was insane.
Yeah.
The games were all good except for the last one.
Mm-hmm.
They were all close, like one-score games. It was just – I thought it was a good week. You had Buffalo beating Jacksonville 27-24. You had the Patriots beating the Chargers 16-3. As much as it pains me to say, I was cheering for the Chargers because they are god awful, and I would much rather play them than play the Bills.
Funny enough, it ended up being like roughly the exact same score that game than with the Bronco game in the last game of the season. I will say though, regarding that Chargers and Patriots game, I think it was the right thing to do to sit those starters. But you could tell Herbert was a little rusty. Herbert was a little rusty in that game. And, he did not play great. I mean, that might have been he's definitely been known to be a playoff bust. But like that was one of his worst games. And the New England Patriots, like, look, they have a good defense. They don't have an elite defense, but they have a good defense. Herbert made that defense literally look like he was a carbon copy in practice against Jesse Minter. Like, that was such a pathetic performance by Herbert. Like, there were numerous occasions where guys were wide open and Herbert just was missing guys. I mean, obviously he would, get yards with his legs and stuff like that, but that was such a really bad performance by him. And yeah, again, like, it's just one where you just get a label of the if man. And when you're the if man, you suck in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Then we go over to the NFC side. Well, okay. So that means with those games done, Buffalo travels to Denver as road favorites, which is just blows my mind. And then Houston travels to New England for a game on the 18th. I think that's going to be a good game, I think. So then you go over to the NFC side. You got the Rams beating the Panthers barely, 34-31. That was such a good game.
Kudos to the Panthers. That might have been the best game of the entire weekend, actually, was Panthers and Rams. Kudos to the Panthers, man.
And then you got Chicago beating out Green Bay at, again, fourth quarter comeback, 31-27. And you got the 49ers eliminating the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles 23-19. So that means the Niners travel to Seattle and the Rams travel to Chicago. And I got to tell you, a Broncos-Bears Super Bowl where it's all blue and all orange, horrible football in the first three quarters, and then 80 points in the fourth quarter would be fantastic.
And just something from the narrative's sake, like between the first overall pick and the last pick of the first round would just be chef's kiss, incredible.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to the Denver Broncos and Buffalo Bills. Again, I was wishing it was going to be the Chargers because I would prefer that they have an easier path to the Super Bowl, but we'll take what we can get. I don't know. This game, the Bills aren't as good as they were last year, but they've still got that second half. Like, the defense steps up in the second half. The Josh Allen takes over the second half. The one big area that they are really, really bad at is run defense.
They're really bad.
But if we're going off of, and this is one of the reasons why I was upset during that Chargers-Broncos game, is because, yes, we were running the ball a lot, but we did not run very well.
No.
And if you're going against the Buffalo Bills, who have a poor run defense, and you can't run the ball, you're in trouble.
In fairness, the Chargers have one of the best defenses in football and one of the best run defenses in football. If you can't be able to run against the 30th best run defense in the NFL, win or lose, you're not going to cut it very long. And if that's the case, you deserve to lose by blowout. And the Chiefs, for that matter, have one of the better run defenses and defenses in general. So the last couple of weeks, they struggle. They struggled, when it came to running the football. But I also think that there's another layer to this in terms of why the Broncos also struggled to run the football. And that was, there were a couple things that happened in that Broncos and Chargers game, which was a bit unfortunate. And that was you had Alex Forsythe go down with an injury, and they were moving the ball rather well the moment he went down. And then he went down, and then Sam Mustipher, came in, and it got really chaotic at that point. And then Forsythe came back, and it's still, there was just nothing changed in terms of how chaotic it was. So it just, that center position got really mixed up. And then the wheels fell off the wagon emotionally for the team and everything else of that offensive line when Bowles went down. When Bowles went down, it's like the entire game shifted to, let's just get out of Dodge. Let's finish this game healthy, skin of our teeth, if you will. Let's win this game, just win it, and let's just get through this and be really vanilla overall with our offense. But I think that, the one where I will say, or I give, Jesse Minter a lot of credit was, they were playing backups and they were playing some scrubs for the Chargers. But the mark of a really good up-and-coming head coach is turning those backup players into star caliber players in a meaningless game. And he coached up those players so well on that defensive front that he made that offensive line look like scrubs. So, yeah, it's a little bit concerning to have a game like that going into the playoffs. But, shout out to the Chargers for also basically sweeping the leg of that offensive line for where things were. So they did not make it easy on the Broncos at all.
No, they didn't. But I also feel like the Broncos at times didn't make it easy on themselves. I mean, RJ Harvey continues to be up and down. I talk about this on Broncos Syndicate all the time. When you develop a young player, there are going to be peaks and valleys. There are going to be moments where they go through growing pains, and we see that in real time basically every single game with RJ Harvey. I do think he's gotten better as the season's gone on, 100%. But I want to see more Jaleel McLaughlin. I really do, because as a pure runner between the tackles, Jaleel can find that space just a half second quicker than Harvey can. He can hit those holes and get 4 yards out of a run that doesn't really have a whole lot there. And that can at least keep you ahead of the chains. That way you're not in 3rd and long too often. I thought they were in 3rd and long way too much against the Chargers. And you can throw that game out if you want to, because it really did feel like after they got that 2-score lead with Jaquan's pick 6, they were kind of on cruise control mode. They were just trying to get out of that game like we were talking about, and they were just being very vanilla on really both sides of the ball, especially offensively. But whenever you look at this game coming up, you've got to find a way to have a consistent ground game. And I've been wondering for the last few weeks if Jaleel McLaughlin is the answer to unlocking that, because I'm hearing that we're not going to get J.K. Dobbins back anytime soon. Maybe AFC Championship game or Super Bowl, but he's going to be nowhere near 100%. We've got to find a way to get a sustainable run game, and if it's Jaleel that does it, it's Jaleel that does it.
And, he was benched for many weeks to start this season. And like you said, Gage, it seems like he can make things happen the moment he's handed the ball. I mean, he can peel off an 8-yard run in no time. And as a little guy, in Bo's presser today, he was asked about the running backs, and, he mentioned Harvey, but he did say about Jaleel that this guy's been contributing a lot in recent weeks. It seemed like he was giving him a little bit more love than the other two. Not as a diss to anybody, but I think he's going to be a major key. But, as you mentioned the previous game, and just that was the frustrating part for me, was everything was on the line in that game, and there was no killer instinct. There was no just push the pedal down as hard as you freaking possibly can to the floorboards. Yeah. There was none of that. And hopefully that mindset has changed. They did kind of dodge a bullet by getting the win, getting the number 1 seed, getting the bye. But that cannot be happening in this game. Yeah. It's got to be balls out from the opening kickoff to the ending gun, and give it your best opportunity, because there's just no chance to, especially when you see Josh Allen pushing a pile freaking 15 yards on a tush push. It's just bananas when we're facing a very formidable team, and we cannot afford to take the same approach as we did against the Chargers.
Yeah. Well, and I will say there were probably a little bit of some different levels to both games when you look at the Chiefs last year and you look at the Chargers this year based on the end of game situation. The Chiefs set their starters, but also we were in search for a playoff berth. And if we won that game, we definitely go into the playoffs. This one, both teams were in the playoffs. It was just a matter of what the seeding would in essence kind of entail. So I think that probably resulted in maybe a little bit less killer instinct than maybe the fans would have liked. But, it resulted in the 1 seed, and it resulted in not only the mini bye that they had from the Chiefs game to the Chargers game, but also that full bye, if you will. So they should be plenty rested, and hopefully Sean Payton has up his sleeve a game plan much like he did against the Packers and Cowboys and some of the other games prior in terms of the fourth quarter comebacks and stuff like that for a full game.
Jeff Bryan is upset.
He's
Sean
upset
Payton.
with Sean today. Yeah.
Peyton trying to educate Broncos fans on when and how to make noise. I mean, we did count down from 10 on the play clock. So,
Okay.
What a joke. Pretty insulted by that condescending stuff. 2, questioning a media member on their football knowledge, basically like he knows everything, and how dare anyone try talking X's and O's with him.
Who was that? I missed that.
Doesn't have an aggressive game plan and they lose against Buffalo. I will be off that bandwagon.
Number 2
And
was
he's not talking about the
waiting
Broncos.
for
I can
Gage to
tell
go
you, he's
off.
not talking about the Broncos bandwagon. He's got to be talking about the Peyton band.
number 2 was Luka again.
Of course it was.
It
What
was
did
about
Luke ask? I missed the presser today.
Oh, it was about like like Dre Greenlaw and and playing the position, and Sean basically just like was just like, oh, you have you played linebacker kind of thing.
Oh, I hate that shit. Oh, I hate that.
So
So that means everybody's unqualified to talk about anything they haven't done. In any line of business, like you cannot, you cannot have an opinion. You cannot ask a question about anything you haven't done. Oh, I can't stand that.
All right, podcast is over then. I do wonder if I know that Drew Sanders is eligible to come off of injured
talk about
reserve.
something that wasn't on our bingo card.
Right? So is he going to be playing in this game, or are they still going to hold him out?
I would.
He
not
was
really-
limited today.
Yeah.
Limited practice.
If he plays, it's going to be a special teams role,
Special.
maybe a blitz package or something like that. I think we remember what?
I was just saying, or a special like invested role for him.
Sure. I think we all remember that Chargers game last season where he came in on 3rd down and got a sack on a linebacker blitz. So I think that's kind of going to be the situations where we see him out there. And I want to talk about this for a second, really briefly. As far as, fans making noise and Sean Payton talking about that, it's really important. And I love Broncos country. They're incredible, making noise in the stadium. I mean, it's deafening in there. What Sean's trying to emphasize is try to get loud once they get into that huddle.
Mm-hmm.
I think the peak of the noise comes when they get out of the huddle and when they're at the line of scrimmage. The peak of the noise needs to come once they're in that huddle. Because if one guy hears the wrong thing in the play call, it can fuck everything up. Like, let's say the protection is numbers based and you hear 52 instead of 53. One of your linemen's going the wrong way. So you can screw up everything. Or let's say the receiver doesn't hear the tag. You think that the receiver's tagged for the X and it's for the Z or something like that. That can cause a cacophony of problems. And I think that's what Sean's trying to emphasize there is peak the noise when they're in the huddle. Because when they're at the line of scrimmage, they've got methods to deal with the noise, which is obviously a silent cadence. But once you're in the huddle, that's where you can have a snowball effect for everything to go wrong. So that's where I feel like the big emphasis is. Not necessarily. You hear teams talk about that. Like when you're up in Seattle or in a really loud stadium, doing that is really, really hard. The snap, you've got a guard looking back. You've got the center looking between his legs. Quarterback gives an indicator, a hand flash or leg lift, and that's how they get the ball off. There's no verbal cadence when they're in the shotgun. So I feel like that's what Sean's trying to emphasize on that. That's some nerdy football stuff, but I can go on a full tangent about that.
I hate to admit, but when I heard you say cacophony, I just kind of shut down afterwards. I was so impressed. I was just
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just but I mean I understand the I think that it just kind of goes to show you maybe it wasn't so much of like a degrading comment. It was just more of like just reinforcing fans like, hey, let's make this place loud, right? Like, let's make this place loud. Let's make this place what it's meant to be, which is the toughest place to play, in terms of home field advantage and everything. And I think it's just, it may have came across a little bit, on the wrong side of that. But I think it's just more of like the reinforcement of, let's really make this the true home field advantage for what it is, here at, altitude and everything. And so I would hope that, the fan, I will say this though, being at that Titans game and sitting in front of a fan that wanted to cheer every single snap and try to and like ignite the crowd every single play. Don't do that. Save yourself from and breathe and
marriage,
or just like rest maybe a few plays and then start, it back up again. We don't need to go every single play, because, if you do every single play, you're really going to, piss off other Bronco fans. And then at that point, we don't want Bronco fans going up against Bronco fans in a Tennessee Titans game where a possible fight might be breaking out. I'm speaking from personal experience right now, but it's just like, we don't want that. We don't want that. Okay.
Yeah.
What's Cam talking about? Anyway.
No idea what no idea.
He just
and if you go to a Broncos game, and there is a larger size guy behind you with his two kids, don't turn around and rub his belly. Don't do that.
That was so weird, dude.
It's weird. Don't do that. That's not.
That was so fucking weird. Like this guy.
The only way it would have gotten any weirder if he was like poking my belly button. Other than that, just like turn around and go woo. No.
In all fairness, you did have
baby
your shirt up and you had written in lipstick "rub me" on your stomach. So
yeah, and I had the B like this, so that they got my nipples. My wife just gave me the weirdest look ever.
What? She's like, "This is quite some serious analysis." Yeah,
I thought this was a football show. What are you doing, Steve and Jeff Bryan? He's looking towards the Lord on that comment.
Oh my gosh!
So the best thing that the Broncos can do is make the Bills' offense one-dimensional. They do have some receiving options. I do think our secondary is better, but the one big thing they have is James Cook. And if we can limit him, I think we have a very good shot at beating this Bills team.
Wow.
And that go ahead. Kim.
No, go ahead, Glenn.
I was going to say that was the issue last year. I mean, we gave up 210 yards rushing against this team. And that really was the difference. We could not stop them. If you remember, we came out and actually scored the first touchdown at the playoff game last year. So Buffalo is the number one rushing offense in the NFL this year. So that really is the key. And they don't have a ton of receiving weapons right now.
They don't.
You got Shakir, you got Brandon Cooks, who just 2 games ago surpassed having more catches than drops for the season. And Keon Coleman, who's been in and out of the doghouse these last few weeks, but now that Gabe Davis is hurt, he's going to be back in there. And they've got two great tight ends. But
are they going to bring Mecole Hardman up then?
They might have to, because they lost 2 receivers in that game.
Yeah, I mean, they might be getting Curtis Samuel, but even then, I think that the thing that I would be expecting here when, you have anybody that's coming off of IR, and we'll talk about the other thing on the other side of the ball, but like I would expect them to even be on a pitch count, I know the Ed Oliver stuff, that he's coming off of IR, but I would expect him on a pitch count. They're not gonna, throw him into the wolves and have him be there, a majority of the snap, because I guarantee you a 30th rush defense would love to have Ed Oliver on their defensive line a majority of the time, but that's not reasonable at all for Oliver.
But do you have him on a pitch count if you're in the playoffs and there's a very real shot you're going to lose?
You're gonna regret it if you don't have him on a pitch count. Just ask Dre Greenlaw, right? He's going to probably be on a pitch count, and he's already talked about how much he greatly appreciates, the Broncos really, respecting his health and really handling the whole process. It's maybe not been the best from the observing part of it, from the fan side of things, but I can tell you from Greenlaw's perspective and coming from San Francisco where they rushed him, he greatly appreciates that. And so for Ed Oliver, I would imagine he's going to be on a pitch count. But I think going back to like the weapons and stuff like that, Samuel is going to end up being on a pitch count. They will definitely bring him back, but like he'll be on a pitch count. And for a team that's going to end up literally only having like 2 or 3 wide receiver weapons, I mean, it's going to be I would not be surprised if this is a low scoring game. And I really do mean that, because like this is going to be one that's going to be really heavy personnel from the Bills. They're going to be focused on really running the football. And frankly, I would argue that all these injuries that the Buffalo Bills had, they're tipping their hand on everything that they're going to do offensively, which is 12 personnel, 13 personnel, really heavy personnel, with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox being their main featured weapons, with, Khalil Shakir sprinkled in here, Brandon Cook sprinkled in here, Keon Coleman sprinkled in here, so I mean, like, they're really tipping their hand on what they're probably going to end up doing. And if they can just stop to what we're talking about with James Cook and Josh Allen, they're really going to make that life miserable for the Buffalo Bills, really. And I think that the Broncos overall really do set up favorably this year than they do last year defensively, because of that. Obviously the weapons that they had last year were way more than they had last year. And frankly, I didn't appreciate their wide receiver room as much as I did even last year. And they already had more. So here they have like a barren cupboard of playmakers, except for their two tight end room, Shakir and the 2 main guys.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's most terrifying is you've got 2 good tight ends over on the Bills side. So does that mean we're going to get a lot of Singleton matchups one-on-one with the tight end? Because I don't like that matchup.
I think they'll probably match up with Barron more so than Singleton. Like, we might see more of that dime package with Barron and Jaquan McMillan in there, because you can see Barron come downhill. He can defend the run, but he can also cover. Because you think about Dalton Kincaid, he's really more of a wide receiver than he is a tight end. And I think Denver's going to treat him like a wide receiver, kind of like they treat Brock Bowers. But it honestly wouldn't surprise me at all, honestly, if they put PS2 on Kincaid in certain situations, because they just don't have a lot of wide receiver talent. I mean, yeah, you've got Khalil Shakir, you've got Brandon Cooks, and who else do you have? That's really about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're in a really, really tough situation there if you're Buffalo. And like Cam said, it's going to be a lot of 12, 13 personnel, a lot of heavy packages, kind of like the same way that the Rams do their heavy personnel, where you'll sometimes put a wide receiver in line at tight end, but then you'll put your tight end out as a wide receiver. They can do some of that stuff with Dalton Kincaid. So Denver's going to be really tested with their matchups, and I'm very curious if they want to match up with more sub defense against these heavy personnel packages. That's kind of what I'm expecting, but James Cook is really the big thing we're all watching here. And there was a mismatch that Buffalo took advantage of last season with Nick Bonito in the run game. I mean, they were running at Nick Bonito basically the entire second half, and that's when Buffalo opened up that game. Denver did a good job keeping that game close. They got that deep touchdown to Troy Franklin. That was the first time we finally saw that deep connection between Bo Nix and Troy Franklin. Denver held on for quite a bit in that game, but ultimately it was the run game with James Cook. And in this game, I think Denver's going to be very aware of that, trying to stop James Cook. That makes me concerned about Josh Allen in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's beat up, but those read option plays where do you crash in to try to stop James Cook, or do you break, contain, and let Josh Allen out? Like, what do you do there? There's just a really, really tough matchup in terms of defending Josh Allen on the ground. There's a lot that Denver's defense is going to have to account for there.
Yeah, and you really have to – I was going to say, you really have to give credit to Cook as well. You know, this is a guy that held out, had a number in mind, got his big contract, and generally after something like that happens, a guy has an off season, and certainly not the case. He was even better than last year. But Josh Allen is the one that scares me most of all. I don't think that there's a bigger competitor in the NFL than Josh Allen. And this dude is, in terms of competitiveness, Tim Tebow times 20. And if this game gets really tight, he's going to try to take it over. We saw it in the second New England game when Patriots were up 21-0 and ended up losing that game. And Allen had like a 45-yard touchdown run on his own. He is the guy that's that's probably keeping VJ up at night. How are we going to scheme against him? And but we have the defense. These guys we have the personnel that can do it. It's just, let's do it.
Well, and that's where I really do think that despite the snap count for Greenlaw, like that's going to matter. Like, I think that specifically too, it's also one where, look, I already saw Bill's, I believe it was a Bills content guy posted today, but it shows that the Bills fan base is already starting to be a little bit worried about Hufanga. Because Hufanga should be the number one player that if I'm the Bills, I would be focused on from the back end side of things at safety, or frankly, whatever, maybe even the defense. Hufanga would be the one guy I would be focused on because he is going to be the one that's going to be crashing, on those plays in the running game and, even the passing game. Like specifically Kincaid or even Knox in the middle of the field. Like that's going to be a big thing. And the other thing I want to stress in this too is where it's frankly, I would imagine that it's not going to be setting up well for Buffalo is when you're a heavy screen team going up against the defense and an offense that they face in practice of a heavy screen team, that's not favoring you well either. And Buffalo is a very heavy screen team with guys like a Khalil Shakir. He had 12 targets last week, 12 targets and like 12 catches for like 88 yards, not something of like, over 100 yards. So he is their big screen weapon, right? So like if they could be able to stop that screen game and frankly use what they did against, it sounds very risky, obviously, when I say this, because they used it against Trey Lance, they used it against, the Chiefs, but if they can use the cage rush at times, against Josh Allen and really pin him, inside that pocket, and you're allowed to at least try your best in stopping James Cook and stopping Josh Allen on a fair amount of these running plays. And then on those downs where you believe it's going to be a passing opportunity and passing downs, that's when you can start to kind of sprinkle in these ideas of PS2 on Kincaid, Barron on Kincaid, et cetera, all these different matchups that you could be able to exploit. Because I do think defensively they're in a much better spot, meaning Denver, than they were last year. And I just think that just overall the Bronco team, they set up so well, knowing the fact that they had that game last year. And I think for me personally, I mean, I can't speak for you guys. I know we talked about it, but just from the simple storyline aspect and from where the confirmation of where this team is from year one to year two of that growth, it's the best possible game you really could have asked for. They may not necessarily be the best matchup per se or whatever. Some would say they are, some would say they aren't, but just from the sheer growth of where this team is, and there's been a lot of growth this year. Take win or lose out of this. There's been a lot of growth this year, but it's the great confirmation of where they've been from that Buffalo game in the road to the Buffalo game at home.
Yeah, and the run defense this year, I do believe, is a lot better than it was last year.
1,000%.
I do actually love the matchup between James Cook and Malcolm Roach and Ioma Uwazurike in the middle.
And JFM.
I love that. Like Malcolm Roach is the run stuffer. Throw DJ Jones in there on the side. Also a great run stuffer. Those two aren't on the field together really, though. It's a lot more Roach and Uwazurike. But not, and the great thing about Uwazurike, right? Like you have Roach as the run stuffer in the middle. Uwazurike is playing right next to him and he gets up the field and gets pressure. I love that. So I think one of the bigger concerns that we've seen throughout the last couple games is you get that run stopping in the middle. You get that plug in the middle there, but the pass rush hasn't been getting home in the last couple days or the last couple games. We haven't seen a lot of sacks. They kind of get some pressures, but they get out of it. And if you're only going to get one hand on Josh Allen, he's going to get out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And if, as Cam was describing the cage rush, that really was the way that Houston manhandled Allen and the Bills in the game in the regular season. And I would contend that game actually is the one that really turned the Texans season around. Just the way that they beat the crap out of Josh in that. I can imagine that our coaching staff has watched that many, many times to really look to on how to defend. But I do love the Hufanga point you made, Cam. Hufanga forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if there's a little bit of some subtle tweaking on the defensive side of the ball. You combat heavy personnel with more heavy personnel on our side too. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised about that, adding a little bit more bigger bodies on that defensive line. We are on the smaller side. I know everybody's been posting that on the Bills side of things, or even just people have been posting that about, how the Bills offensive line is a bigger offensive line than our defensive line. Well, you can combat that with maybe a little bit more bodies. So maybe we see some formations in some defensive lines where you actually see a little bit more of, Zach Allen, JFM, Roach, and maybe Wazirike on some certain downs in terms of just overall packages. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see if they get a little bit creative just to ensure that they're being able to, get to the quarterback or even get to, James Cook just to create that pressure. Because, and I think the thing too, and it's one of the reasons why Drake Greenlaw is going to matter such a great deal in this, despite maybe some of the limited snaps, is that Houston Texans game. He created so much as far as an opportunity to win that game for the Broncos that I think frankly should be talked about more, because him winning that goal line stand against the Houston Texans, you could argue was the reason why the Broncos won that game. Greenlaw doesn't make a single stop in that goal line stand, Houston scores. And then at that point, you're talking about maybe a Houston win or we're going into overtime. That's a different element to this. So if you add Greenlaw's postseason experience and his tenacity and his ferocity at linebacker, that's just another layer to this. So, we brought in this physicality to where there was the moment with Matt Collins. And yes, I know people clown me on Twitter for it, that he's on the Patriots now and whatever. But if we have a moment like we did last year where Matt Collins should have been penalized for stepping over Pat Surtain, and, in a moment like that, we finally actually have a defense and the mentality of where things are. We're going to fight back. And that is one of the biggest things that is the difference for this defense in last year is we have the ability to fight back. We were taking punches last year by the Bills and didn't fight back. Now we can fight back.
Yep. But I think the big thing here is keep Josh Allen in the pocket. If he gets outside the pocket, that's when he does his crazy off-schedule shit. So collapse the pocket, make sure he can't bounce out, and then let guys like Zach Allen, Yomo Wazirike, Malcolm Roach, let those John Franklin Myers, let those guys do damage on the interior, and that's how you can win up front. And then as far as James Cook is concerned, put those bigger bodies on the interior, but you've got to have a plan for him to bounce outside, which I imagine he's going to do. Again, they're going to try to attack Nick Bonito. We've talked about Talanoa Hufanga. Bring him down. Keep him in the box so that way he can clean up some of those runs that bounce to the outside. And this is going to be on the corners as well. They're going to have to be having good discipline. They're going to have to take proper angles in the run game. It's going to have to be a collective effort on defense to stop the two big weapons here, which are Josh Allen and James Cook.
Yeah, and we sit here and we talk about the defense and how good the defense has to play, but we also have to talk about the offense too for the Broncos. It's been a season-long struggle of something goes wrong here, something goes wrong there, penalty there, penalty there. Mm-hmm. And if the defense plays like it has in the last few games, we might get into a shootout. And we have to make sure that we're putting Bo in the proper place, in the proper play to get the job done. I love what he's able to do when he scrambles, when he gets outside, when he's running bootlegs, play actions. I love that. I hate it when he is sitting in shotgun, sitting in the pocket and trying to throw the ball, because a lot of the time he's either missing the progression or the receiver's just not open.
Or they're dropping it.
Here they're dropping it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was Talib that said it this week, but I believe it was. He said that whatever Bo Nix's rushing total is, take the over. He said the key is that he's got to run more for the Broncos to win this game.
Yeah.
He makes things happen. The guy he's almost a guaranteed first down anytime he starts to run. I mean, he is so quick.
Yeah. And, and specifically for when we talk about the running game environment, like that's the other layer to that, right? Like that's the other layer to that is that leg element. And, with the Buffalo Bills probably playing a little bit more zone, that very well, might open up a little bit of some running lanes for Bo, to where he can be able to use his legs. And if there is something that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks from a defensive schematic change, when the teams that they've been facing, they've been playing a little bit more zone. And so what have we seen when some of that zone defenses happen? Bo's smart enough now where he's realized, oh, you know what? I have this rushing lane, or there's at least a window where if I use my legs and I'm carrying this defender with me, I can free up a passing lane for this wide receiver target where I'm going to be able to hit him, aka Michael Bandy in that Green Bay Packers game. So like he's going to be, I think everybody will know, like he's going to end up being the dynamic weapon for the Broncos for them to get to the Super Bowl because of how well he can carry that offense. So like, but it really is those legs. And I think there really are a couple players specifically to this offense that can really take it to the next level. And I think we touched on Jaleel. I think he's going to be one of the big factors in this game, but I really am very curious about RJ Harvey and Evan Ingram, the jokers, if you will. Sean Payton brought them in to be the specific joker, specifically Evan Ingram. Surprisingly, in the statistical category, Evan Ingram had 500 yards. It doesn't feel like he had that much.
No.
But I would just say, like, when you look specifically to the zone element to this Buffalo Bills team, there could be some seam things down the middle of the field or some opportunities where Evan Ingram can find that soft spot in the zone and he can cut it upfield. Because I will tell you, one of the best things I love about Evan Ingram, and frankly, I'd say he's the best out of all of our playmaker room, is he can take a ball after the catch and just turn it upfield once he has the ball. He's probably the best at that in our room. And RJ Harvey, no, he hasn't really been the best at times in terms of the ebbs and flows of a game and running between the tackles, but you at least try and get him in space and zone with some angle routes or something like that. He will make a lot of people miss, and he is going to end up being tough to bring down. So if you're able to get specifically Ingram going and Harvey, it might be, and obviously Bo's legs, it's going to be a really long day for Buffalo.
Yeah. I think it's going to be all about staying ahead of the chains, going on these long, methodical drives on offense. That way your defense isn't on the field all game long and they don't get gassed. And it's going to be all about running the football, man. That's going to be step number one to this equation. Jaleel McLaughlin, RJ Harvey as well, even Tyler Bidet, they're all going to have to step up in this one. Bo Nix, we're going to like to see more out of his legs in this one. I mean, we've seen that in the Chargers game where he was able to get out of trouble a couple of times with his legs, a couple of other plays where he didn't have anything open, decided to take off. We're seeing kind of an evolution with Bo Nix in that regard. So I'd say that's a very good thing. Also, just get into a rhythm early, man. We've seen this offense just kind of stall out and get really, really stagnant at times. We can't have that. We've got to be able to stay aggressive for all four quarters, and that's the most important thing here. Play complementary football and help out your defense. If you play on cruise control, kind of like how you did last week, where it was conservative, vanilla football, a lot of screens, a lot of really just not creative run plays, you're not going to be successful in this game. You've got to come out and you've got to show some stuff on tape, man. You've got to get Evan Ingram involved. You've got to get Cortland Sutton involved. I'd say you've got to get Marvin Mims involved in this game. Troy Franklin, we all know it's been up and down for him this year, but if Troy Franklin breaks out in this game, the Broncos offense should do really well. So it's all about staying in that rhythm, man. And if you get out of that rhythm, that's where we have some of the offensive issues that have lingered all season long.
Yeah. And I wanna bring this one back up. Just to play this.
USA! USA! USA!
A little bit later for the
But Broncos have been very good in recent games about these long grinding drives, these double-digit drives, burning 7-8 minutes. What they need to do is finish it off with a touchdown, not a field goal. In terms of touchdowns, I've been very jealous of some of these games that we've been watching from other teams with the shootouts and, where it's just back and forth. One team scores, the next guy marches down the field and scores the next thing. And, quite honestly, we have not seen that from the Broncos, and it might end up being one of those situations where that needs to happen in order for us to win this game. Are we capable of doing that? I believe we are.
Yeah.
But the play calling, someone mentioned it earlier, it needs to come in faster. I mean, when the quarterback is begging the coach to get with the program and get these calls in, get these calls in, and this guy never fails.
I mean, the play calls are just long, man. That's the thing. And when you're taking a couple of seconds to decide what you want to call in the next sequence, it's going to take time. They just need to find a more efficient way to get these calls in.
Yeah. Well, and the other side of that too is it's tricky because one of the things that looked like that the Jags were doing was a lot of personnel, like a lot of some of the different personnel. Sean Payton can't fall into that trap, or if he falls into the trap of doing his personnel thing again, he has to maintain that conversation with Bo very regularly so that the moment that play comes, they're still out of that huddle when it's 13, 14 seconds, and then Bo can be able to diagnose the coverages and stuff like that. And, because I think the other side of this too is, in the terms of that wide receiver, and you touched on Troy Franklin, what I think is, and granted, it's been so frustrating at times. We've talked about it ad nauseum, in terms of the drops and how frustrating this team is. But if there is one thing you can still talk about this wide receiver room is it has progressed from this last year to where we are now. Yeah, it's been a bit chaotic and, gave us a little bit of some headaches. But if you were to still ask us where we are today with where Troy Franklin is at, I would be very impressed with where things have been. So if you can get Troy Franklin involved, and if you can get Marvin Mims kind of sprinkled in a little bit more down the field on some of these hole shots or on some of those same angle routes, much like, RJ Harvey or maybe even Julian. Frankly, I would even just say maybe that's where we see a little bit more Marvin Mims out of the backfield in terms of some of this personnel. Frankly, I would actually call my shot there. I think we do see Marvin Mims a little bit more out of the backfield, now. And so because I just think that, specifically back to that running game and just having players in that open space, having that in the middle part of the field with this zone, I think is going to be a big thing, for this offense to move the chains. And obviously numero uno, for me at least, is they've been, for this regular season, they've been a 20-20 team, inside the 20s. They have got to finish in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
They have got to finish in the red zone.
Jeff nailed it. 19 plays, 86 yards, 19-yard field goal.
There we go.
I mean, it just feels like the offense gets constipated down there. They don't have the mismatches in the red zone. They don't have the answers, and it's really frustrating. And this is on Sean to scheme up some plays in that red zone to cash in and not have to settle for field goals.
So answer Biggie Broncos question. Gage, you start.
Ooh.
There's one player out there just nobody's looking to be the unsung hero. What player would you think it would be?
I mean, we've talked about it a couple times in this game. I mean, Jaleel McLaughlin, dude. I think he's somebody that we really need to get involved in this one. And I think it's very possible that if we get Jaleel involved, he could carry us to victory.
I have a wild card. Now, granted, that wild card very well might actually end up being inactive. But in regards to like specifically to this game, I have a wild card, and it involves QB spying Josh Allen, and that name is Drew Sanders.
Devastating.
Yeah. You know, Cam, I'm glad you went with Drew Sanders, because after your last speech, I had already decided I was going with Marvin Mims even before
I know.
I think that Marvin Mims is going to play a big role, not only as a returner, but he's going to have a couple major offensive plays in this game.
I mean, the Bills have got some injuries in the secondary, so if they have an opportunity, they're probably going to attack deep.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that Bernard may play.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that well, obviously Poyer's out, but there's no guarantee that the other safety that they have may even play, because I think he's out. So for a number one team that is, you know, in the secondary as far as a pass defense, they are really affected. You know, they are really effective. And, you know, if there's anything that we were hoping that this game looks like, I would hope that this game looks a little bit like that Packers game, you know, where
go ahead.
No, just where they were just so aggressive. They kept that foot on the pedal, and it was that backyard football. If we can get to that backyard football as an offense, they might actually. Is it a hot take to say that like there's at least a window? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like, is there at least a window here that the Broncos might beat Buffalo by at least 10 points?
It could happen, because we know that this Buffalo Bills team has the tendency to lay stinkers in the playoffs, man. If Josh Allen can't rise to the occasion and be Superman, and if McDermott's defense does what it usually does in the playoffs and craps the bed, I could easily see that.
Yeah. And Jeff, happy birthday to your daughter. I'm not sure which one's having the party, but hopefully she gets a Bronco victory for that. But Mike, who's your guy? Who's your
Troy Franklin? 125 and 2 touchdowns.
Nice. I love it.
So who scored the lone touchdown for the Broncos last year in the Bills game?
Troy Franklin.
Be Troy Franklin. Also, who predicted that Troy Franklin would have the deep shot with Bo Nix in that playoff game?
I'm guessing it was you, if you're mentioning it.
This guy.
I actually remember that.
Always talking about himself. Jeez.
Gotta gas yourself up, man. Pound that chest.
I will also say this. I do think that Jonah Ellis is going to play a big part on the defense in the pass rush. I mean, you got Cooper, you got Benito, but they haven't been getting home very much these last couple of games. I think it's going to be Jonah Ellis.
If there is one thing, we did talk about we did talk about Benito and the run defense of last year. If there is one thing you can consistently say from year 1 to year 2 of Ellis's development, he was great last year in terms of run defense. I'd argue he's the best run defender edge on this team right now. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if there's even some packages from a pass rushing side of things where you see Cooper, Benito, and Ellis on the field just because of the ability for run defense.
For sure.
His brother Christian is tearing it up for the Patriots defense as well.
And Caden Ellis is a free agent.
Yeah.
It might happen, man.
Oh. All right. So do we see the Broncos winning this game? I'm not going to ask scores because I know Gabe's wasn't. Do we see the Broncos pulling out the victory against the Bills?
Well, the biggest thing the Broncos have going for them this year than they did last year was they're not in Buffalo. They are at home.
That's true.
They are at home in front of the crowd, and I do think they come away with it. I do. But we do have to factor in, that's something I think that we need to, briefly touch on, is that I was just going to say game, but this playoff means a lot to Sean McDermott, specifically in the Buffalo Bills, because they have to, at the very least, get to the AFC Championship game. And if they don't, Sean McDermott may be number 10.
I'd argue that AFC Championship game is not enough. This is the season they have to win a Super Bowl, man. If they don't, he's going to get John Foxed.
I was just being probably too nice there, but no, I agree.
It doesn't make if the Bills lose and Sean McDermott gets fired, it doesn't make sense not to bring back Brian Daboll
as offensive coordinator or head coach.
Head coach.
What's funny?
I don't know, man.
Pair him up with Allen again.
What's funny is I could see a scapegoat situation happen again, like the Chargers, where McDermott's not fired, but Joe Brady's the one that's fired.
That's bullshit.
No,
man.
it's not going to happen.
Not the problem.
No, I'm all in agreement. I'm just saying I could just see that happening. Yeah, because
McDermott's tenure with the Bills and Josh Allen as quarterback, what year have they ever had this good of an opportunity, this wide open of a path to get there?
Yeah,
not. I think, and Jeff agreed too in the chat. I think that he could get bounced if they lose the Super Bowl.
He's literally modern day John Fox, man. Foxy came in and changed the culture in Denver. He was the right guy for the job at that point in time, but it became very apparent he wasn't going to maximize the championship window with Peyton Manning. And what happened? They fired Foxy and won the Super Bowl. So
I'm not disagreeing with you guys. I'm just saying, like, in this day and age, like, there's at least a window where, like, they obviously go with the scapegoat route, you know. And so I wouldn't be shocked, because I was talking to a Buffalo fan just yesterday or something, and you know, he's already fed up with Joe Brady. So
I don't know why he didn't decide they shouldn't have any wide receivers on that team.
So
his defense doesn't perennially shit the bed every single playoffs.
No, not at all. Now I do have a question going the other way. Let's say that Denver wins the Super Bowl. Does Sean Payton retire?
No.
Oh
no.
I'm just asking, because I'm at that point.
Hire Dan Quinn.
No, I don't care. I'm just saying he was asked a question about how long he might stay, and then he had a conversation with Bo. And to the press, he's like, 4 or 5 years. And then with Bo, he joked like, like a year. I'm just asking if he wins another Super Bowl.
No.
Is he done at that point? I mean, what else is there to win at that point?
Okay. You think that ego is going to walk away? You think that ego is going to walk away after his second Super Bowl?
I
Not
mean,
a chance,
you
man.
retire after winning a Super Bowl. That kind of sounds like an egomaniacal thing to do, right?
Maybe.
man.
But like he's attached to Bo. He's attached to Bo in his career, and
Let's get Sean fired. Come on, Broncos.
Frankly, there's a more important conversation. There's a more important
McDermott.
Like, oh my God. What is this? What's happening?
There's probably a more important statement that probably should be said. You know, if Sean Payton and the Broncos do win a Super Bowl, and that's Sean Payton is 100% a Hall of Famer at that point, because he will have achieved something no head coach, surprisingly, has never done, which is win a Super Bowl with a team in the NFC and then win a Super Bowl with a team in the AFC. And no coach has ever done that. Andy Reid was supposed to do that with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he collapsed, and it was a failure.
Do you think that some of these people have not accepted any coaching jobs because they're not convinced that all the openings are not available?
Which is wild. It's like 9 already.
9 openings. They might be waiting for the next one.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, when you're Harbaugh, maybe even Tomlin, I'd be curious about Buffalo. I would kind of be eyeballing it, you know.
Mike, you think VJ for Buffalo, right?
Oh, if that job comes open, I think that's the top destination.
I think Vance Joseph is going to Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still think that he's going to the Giants or maybe the Titans.
I actually think
Dude,
he stays.
Sorry, did you see the Titans interview list? It's like every coach in the NFL is interviewing there.
That's smart.
They're
Cast
like
a wide net.
25.
Well,
That's smart.
well, but there's also such thing as casting too wide of a net.
Sure. I mean,
And, I mean, at least to their credit, the Titans' credit, and given everything with their past, they're casting such a wide net. I think the most hysterical part would be if they hired some Darren Rizzi or something for like the head coaching, job or whatever. That would just be hysterical. They casted all this wide net and all. They just like, oh, we decided to roll with Darren Rizzi.
at that rate, if I'm Cam Ward, I'm asking out. I'm demanding.
I know, I'm done.
There are more coaching candidates than bachelorettes in
Dude,
Nashville this week.
I would just love to be in that conversation, sort of like paring down the list from like 19 to 10, from 10 to 5. Like that's gonna be a really long like coaching process. Though that's the only thing I will say of like interviewing like 19 is like you got to go from like 19 to probably 10, from 10 to 5, and then 5 to probably your 3, or at that point you're hiring your coach. I will say I think for Tennessee's sake, and with everything we've seen from that AFC South, which surprisingly really became a good division this year, they've got to close the gap, right? Like they have to do everything in their power to close the gap in that AFC South. And I think the best person for that job is Kevin Stefanski. I think Stefanski, or even Harbaugh for that matter, but like to try and get that done. But like Stefanski with Cam Ward, I think would be a phenomenal head coach quarterback relationship. I think that the Titans could probably do.
And the Titans showed a lot of heart at the end of the season. I mean, stupidly, really.
That's
I mean,
all they had.
They could have had the number 1 pick, and they just kept putting together some wins.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Broncos win on Saturday against the Bills, we should start making videos of like jumping through tables, just to mock.
No,
I'm not doing it.
Bronco Bill needs to actually jump through a table.
He could. He's not heavy enough to break it.
I just said he needs to jump through a table. However that needs to happen, Bronco Bill on the neighborhood needs to jump through a table.
You're gonna get that grandpa killed, Cam.
Just saying. It would be great.
That bag of bones will just bounce right off the table.
It's just gonna bounce off the table.
We would hit 1.6 subscribers to 2.6 subscribers just by that act alone.
That would be funny.
Just by elder abuse?
Yeah. We'll start a TikTok account. Just Bronco Bill bouncing off the table.
The best part is I can totally picture it. Like, I'm envisioning it now.
I'm gonna talk to him about it. We'll see if he does it. Like, hey Bill, if we beat the Bills on Saturday, I need you to jump to your table and record it.
He breaks his hip on a folding table.
No, we got up the ante. The table needs to be lit on fire.
Eating a ding dong.
Have you guys
The
seen
ding
that
dong
guy?
might save him. It'll fall out of his ass.
It's fun. Fall right out of his ass. Have you guys seen that guy on TikTok that like does the death jumps into like a microwave or a dishwasher and barbed wire and stuff, where he's like whoop whoop and then jumps off the thing? We need to have Bill do that. Like whoop whoop, fuck this shit, and then try to
You guys are welcome.
There we go. If we win, Glenn and I will jump in the Merrimack River.
That's right near us.
That doesn't sound as much fun as Bill trying to go through a table.
Dude, it will be the first live people floating in the river, I'll tell you that.
That's good. All right. Anything else that we have not covered?
Good.
Oh, I think we're good.
All right. I'll let you guys know how that phone call with Bill goes here. As soon as the show's over. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody that joined us in the chat. It was a lively conversation. We talked about Bill going through a table, me having a bee over my nipples. All kinds of stuff happened in this show today. So make sure you head on over to the MHRT Network YouTube page, hit the like, subscribe, thumbs up, and hit that join button. Gives you 3 different tiers. You can pick what you want to do. Also, jump over to Broncos Syndicate, hosted by Gage Madrid, and do the exact same thing. Hit that like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit that join button. 2 different tiers. Gives you the options of what you want to do with the perks. Oh, it's pretty cold here. I like that. We got shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the neighborhood on game days. One of those shows we have on the network is on Wednesdays, hosted by Cameron Parker. It's mainly Broncos. So make sure you go check that out as well. And I will let you guys know about the table video with Bill. So we'll get that out there. But we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We love the Broncos. We will see you guys later. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles.